Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. This is Barry Hauser here from Smith Walbridge Clinics, where I serve as Director and President and also as the Associate Director of Bands and Director of the Marching Illini at the University of Illinois. Last Thursday, we brought a virtual conducting clinic to the internet and had no idea that we were going to max out at 300 students, which was really great. I know we had students both at the college and the high school levels from all throughout the country, and we had a number of students that weren't able to join us, so I do apologize for that. But we're going to do a little wrap-up video and a little bit of a review as well from what we covered in that virtual conducting clinic. So that's kind of the purpose of this video. As you all know, COVID-19 has really impacted all of us in a very unique way. This is not an ideal situation to bring this material to you, but hopefully just a way that we're able to share some of our information and our expertise with you as you prepare for drum major auditions, or if you've ever had an interest in conducting and looking at auditioning for the position of drum major, or just any type of conducting position in general. Some of these basic principles are based on formal conducting, and we believe wholeheartedly in bringing that style and those fundamentals to what we do with all of our drum majors that we train at Smith Walbridge in the summer. So a lot of this comes from Elizabeth Green, and then there's going to be some breakouts from that philosophy, but we're going to share some of those basic principles with you today. So thanks for joining us as you are at your house and in your home, in your bedroom, wherever you are watching this. I am as well in our home offices of Smith Walbridge here in our home as well. So this footage is going to be very raw. It's going to be very real. And so again, there's not going to be a lot of editing that takes place with this, because again, we just want to share this information and get this out to you as quickly as possible. So I hope this is helpful to you, and we'll wrap up here at the end of some of the material that we talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to break away here from the chair and stand up a little bit, and we can start some of our basic training as it pertains to conducting. So I'm going to raise this up a little bit as well. So when we look at overall conducting, specifically within the drum major position, most of you have been through marching band, so you know what the attention position looks like. So in terms of our basic structure that we're looking at with our lower body, it's going to be very similar to our attention position that we utilize in marching band. And so in looking at that, where are our feet? Well, our feet can be together, heels and toes together. You may go heels together, feet at the 45. Another element that we look at in conducting, and probably a little more in modern era conducting, is that our feet are going to be shoulder width apart as well. And that's a stance that I prefer. It seems to be a little more natural. So part of it is going to be based on the music that we're doing as well. For instance, when we do the national anthem, our feet are probably going to be more together, heels together, feet together. This stems from our military heritage. You know, when we look at the position of drum major, this comes from our military background. And so that presents a little more formal setting when we're conducting the national anthem. So do your thing. Just make sure that it's going to look professional. It's going to present, you know, a great deal of confidence in what you're doing, and then also to make sure that there's some natural things that take place as well with our overall stance. We shouldn't be doing anything that hurts our body. So as you look at that, I'm going to go with, for right now, feet shoulder width apart. Knees, make sure there's a good flex there. We all know from marching band, if we lock those knees, what's going to happen there. So we don't want to see anybody passing out by any means. Your hips are going to be over the knees, which are now over the arches of the feet. Our core, as we look at this should, again, we don't want to stick our stomachs out. We don't want to arc our backs. It should just be very natural when you're standing here, hopefully with some good posture there. When we look at our shoulders, there should be no tension in those shoulders, so we're going to keep those nice and relaxed. We do a very simple exercises of creating tension, pulling those up, and then relaxing those shoulders, and then pulling them back just a little bit to create, again, that overall confidence and that great posture that we're looking at within our conductors. In terms of head position, we need to be making eye contact with the musicians in our ensemble, whether it's marching band, a concert band, whatever the case may be. So again, the head should be up. We don't want to be looking down. We don't want to be looking too far up. Most of us are going to be elevated on some type of podium or scaffolding, so there's no reason, again, to be looking so far up or even looking down per se. Just, again, a nice parallel look if we're looking straight ahead of us. That's going to be our overall body position as we look at that attention position. As we get into some of the basic structure of our overall ready position, and this ready position is what we call when we get ready to conduct. This ready position is going to be based off of 4 hinges. So when we look at those 4 hinges, we've got our shoulder hinge, we've got our elbow hinge, we've got our wrist hinge, and then you have your phalanges or your fingers that we take a look at here. Now these 4 hinges that we use are going to be utilized for basic parts of when we're conducting. Some of these things are going to be stylistically. Some of these are going to be, again, for the medium that we're conducting. I always share with our drum majors that we're going to be utilizing a lot more of our shoulder hinge and probably our elbow hinge when we're serving as a drum major because of the stage that we're conducting. A huge football field compared to the concert stage. When we're talking about concert conducting, it's going to be much more reserved and all in this space that we look at here, which we'll define here in just a moment. So as we look at these 4 hinges, look very closely when we set up this structure. So we're going to go ahead, based on our good posture that we have, going from our shoulder to our elbow hinge, you're going to create a 45-degree angle. And now these 45-degree angle, we've got 2 different 45s that we're looking at. We've got, again, as we're looking here, and we set this up, if I set a 90-degree center with my body and then straight to the right, you're going to find the 45-degree angle there and place your shoulder to your elbow right there in that 45. Now you also have a 45-degree angle. If I use this arm and then I put this out at the diagonal, where's the 45 here at this diag? And as you look at that diag, that's going to set up a little bit where that shoulder to elbow will go as well. Okay, so the shoulder to elbow has the angle from the elbow to the wrist. That's going to be parallel to the ground. And we'll talk about where placement is here on the horizontal plane in just a moment. But when we look at this from elbow to wrist, keep that nice and parallel. We don't want to see a lot of the flesh or this part from elbow to wrist because it provides a lack of clarity when we're getting ready to conduct. Okay? Our wrist, again, as we talked about, nice and parallel. Our hand position. I think the easiest way to do this and the safest way to do this is, again, just go ahead and let your arms hang down as if you were just nice and relaxed standing there. Look at the shape of your hands. Most of us, when we're there's going to be a nice relaxed feel. There's a natural curvature with the fingers. The thumb is slightly detached. We're not, again, looking at a blade or the fingers being together. So we never want to conduct that way because that shows a great deal of restriction and it doesn't provide very good clarity in terms of the overall form. So a nice curvature to the palm that we look at right there. Fingers slightly spread apart, no spirit fingers, and thumb is going to be slightly detached as well. So a nice arc to that palm. Again, let that hang down, look at that overall structure, pull that up. So again, shoulder to elbow, 45-degree angle this way and this way. When we look at our elbow to wrist, nice and parallel to the ground, nice curvature to the palm, and then your thumbs are nice and detached, okay? That's going to be your ready position. You're going to recreate that with the left hand because a lot of times in drum major conducting we do mirror. So we're going to get that set up as well, so take a look there. Okay, this is about where our overall conducting ready position is going to be. Now, we'll review this here in just another moment, but I want to set up a little bit of where we are with our planes as well. There are 3 planes in conducting that we look at. There's a horizontal plane, and when we set up this horizontal plane, again, it's about where we are, belly button level, maybe slightly up and raised from where that belly button is. But imagine that you've got a table right there in front of you, and you're just going to, again, move your hands right across that level plane. And again, this is our horizontal plane. Sometimes we'll do this exercise called the dust the ictus off the table, and what that means is we do these exercises going out for 8 counts, and then you pull it in for 8 counts. And that's, again, acting like you're dusting the table. If there were dust on a table, you're just grazing your fingers along that, but creating where that horizontal plane is, keeping that level. We're not changing angles. We're not going up. We're not going separate angles. It's going straight across. Then we have our vertical plane. And as if you got this vertical plane, it's as if you were painting a fence. Okay? And again, one of those big privacy fences, if you will, to where there's not going to be this masterpiece with our paintbrush. We're just, again, painting that as fast as we can. So as we look at that, you're covering that space right there within that vertical plane. Okay? And that's another exercise that you can do. Take it up for 8 counts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? Now with both of these, the horizontal and the vertical planes, we've got another plane that's going to help define and provide some guidance for the horizontal and vertical plane. And that is called the sagittal plane. The sagittal plane is how far do we go out from our body. Okay? And a lot of times we like to pull everything in, or we change or break that sagittal plane. When we're conducting, and specifically with drum major conducting, we want to act like, again, that we're up against a brick wall. And if you got that brick wall, or any wall for that matter, that plane is not going to change. So what I mean by that is when I'm doing the horizontal plane, that remains constant right there. You'll notice I'm not going out and rounding that out or rounding that in. Same thing when I do the vertical plane. I'm not going to break that sagittal plane. I'm going to take that all the way up, as if I were, again, hands up against that brick wall or any other wall to keep that level. So you've got your horizontal plane, you've got your vertical plane, and then your sagittal plane. And that sagittal plane, normally speaking, when we conduct and set up that ready position, we want to push that out just a little bit more. But again, that's already defined based on the degrees that we did with setting this overall structure from our shoulder to our elbow and so forth, okay? Oftentimes we'll find drum majors that will conduct with their elbows in. We need to open that space up. A lot of times, you open this up because you want your armpits to air out. We're usually sweating quite a bit, so that's a great way to have some natural air conditioning that takes place. And it's actually good formal conducting structure that way as well. So, kind of be really aware of that, because that's where a lot of our conducting technique, even as drum majors, starts to fail a little bit because we're doing too many things. You also notice, again, we're not up here, not creating, again, where we're creating the elbows are level with the shoulders. If you're shorter in stature, that doesn't mean that you conduct higher. That means, again, that you're going to stay in that ready position, okay, that we've already defined. So with that, we've now talked about the 3 planes: horizontal, vertical, sagittal. We've talked about our ready position and the basic structure of where we are with our arms. The other part of this is going to be our conducting window. When we're conducting with one arm or one hand, you're going to center that with the center of your body. So again, when we look at that, setting that 45-degree angle up, it's going to change now from one of those 45s, from your shoulder to your elbow. It's still 45 there, but we're no longer here. We're going to bring this center to where your palm, your hands, are centered with the center of your body. Okay, and that's where we again find a good source of where that information is going to be when we're conducting, and we'll define that 4-4 pattern in just a moment. Okay, when we conduct with both hands, you're going to split that difference of your body, and again, that's where we set up our 2 45-degree angles, and you'll see again we have a nice setup here. I'm not up here, I'm not down here. You set up that 45 with your basic structure, shoulder to elbow once again, and that helps define that. This also sets up our horizontal plane. So when we're conducting, we've got a conducting box or a conducting window. A great way to do this, and this is where majority of what you do conducting-wise, from patterns and things like that, are going to stay in. We build the foundation of a house. Belly button, take a string out from the belly button straight out, act like we've got that foundation. Here's your horizontal plane. Okay, then we're going to build the walls of that house. I'm not fully extended, full wingspan. I'm out here, nice comfortable level. Build that vertical, and that's where we are here. And then build the house top, or the roof of that house, just about where the top of your head is. So that house is the foundation of where we're going to be conducting. Another great way to do this, and this is probably one of my favorites, is actually, imagine, if you will, one of those large bouncy balls that you can get at Walmart, Meijer, whatever, those big box stores that are all caged up. And so you get one of those big bouncy balls. Imagine you got one of those in your hands right now. If I threw that ball to you, your natural instinct would be to catch that. That's our hope. Otherwise, you'd get Wu-Tanged in the face, and we don't want that to happen by any means. So catch that. You've got that. Now with that, rotate that around a little bit, and you'll notice again, it's staying within this general vicinity of where we are with those planes that we've described already. And those planes and parameters being within this general source and space that we're dealing with right now. This is often what I refer to as the sphere of influence. So in your best Darth Vader voice, you can, again, say that you're within the sphere, and this is where a majority of our patterns are going to take place once again. In drum major conducting, so many people think it's just always here. There's going to be a time and a place for that, maybe. We also want to make sure it's just not right there with drum major conducting, because again, if we've got people out there on the back side of the field behind the back hash, they're not necessarily going to see this, even with whatever gloves you have on or whatever the case may be. Okay? Now you'll notice I'm addressing things dealing with no baton. So if you conduct with the baton, that's another set of parameters and fundamentals that we deal with. So if you're interested in that, be sure to message us, and I can help you with some of those things as well, just in terms of the grip of the baton and so forth, and how we conduct with that, because that's going to be very different as well, where we're conducting with the tip versus with the hand. Okay, so we've covered a good deal of foundational things that are going to set us up for some great success. And that's very important. Just like scales that we do, this is very important in conducting. Scales for your playing, why do you do that? You do that so, again, you can play in a variety of key centers, that you continue to cover a great deal of notes within the musical spectrum of your instrument. So setting up these fundamentals are going to help us, again, have some great fundamentals and set us up for better clarity when communicating with the ensemble. Your job is not necessarily to, just keep time. And maybe for some of you that is. You are the metronome. But we want to make sure that there's clarity there. We're hoping that many of you are going to get to experience providing some musical nuances along the way as well. Okay? So we covered our posture. We've covered our planes. We've covered our conducting windows. So now we're going to get into some of the actual conducting patterns. And we're going to cover 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to take a look at the 2 versions of 5. And we're going to take a version of 6 as well. Now, most of you may not be utilizing those 2 versions of 5 or 6, but again, just some tools for you to have in the basic fundamentals of our pattern. Okay? So we're going to conduct with one hand to begin, and so we're going to get that set up in that ready position as we look at shoulder to elbow, again, 45-degree angle, elbow to wrist, nice and parallel, natural form to our hand, our fingers, and our thumb slightly detached. Okay, and you're looking again, that's all nice and straight right there. We're not changing the angle of the wrist. That's all aligned. So again, if you were, the longest finger on your hand is kind of like your baton. That's what's going to be our guide at this point. Okay? All right, so now we're going to get into our conducting patterns, and we're going to go ahead and start with a 1 pattern. And the 1 pattern, when we do this, is really quite simple. It's a more vertical motion in terms of our vertical plane. So as we look at this, you prep right here, and then you come down. And it all stays within this vicinity right here. Now you'll notice my palm is not going to face up right here. It is really easy to let that happen. You want to keep your palm down, and we're going to put that ictus right there on 1. Okay, when conducting, there are 3 parts to conducting. There's the preparatory gesture, which is breathing with the ensemble, the count before the music begins. Then there's the ictus, where the beat is shown, and that's where we look for a great deal of clarity. And then the rebound, which is going to define the length of note. Okay, and that will be in some of our basic stylistic elements that we look at here in just a moment as well. Okay, so when we look at the 1 pattern, I'm going to expand that now to 2 hands. So now I'm splitting that conducting box. You'll notice I'm at a 45-degree angle, good space right here. I'm going to set that up for a 1 pattern. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and drop. Okay? So again, we may think, wow, that's really easy, but when we're conducting music in 1, there's a lot that we can actually show with that we have to think outside the box because that pattern is so simple. So make sure when we're again conducting time, you're utilizing that horizontal plane and constantly hitting that ictus in the same place. We don't want to change and put an ictus there, and so forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So let's do 8 measures of 1 once again. 1, 2, ready, prep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and drop. Okay? Good, good, good. Now we're going to move to the 2-4 pattern. In 2, there's a couple different versions that we can use. There's more of a legato 2. There's a little bit more of a fight song 2 that I like to call a stopped or froze pattern. And then there's one that we can kind of provide some subdivision as well. So I'm going to show you both. We're going to do the first one, which is more of the legato, which is kind of a smooth J. So I hit the ready position. I'm going to use one hand once again. And feel free to trace out with me anytime you get a chance. I'll do both hands. Just make sure that we're solid here. So we're going to prep on count 2. And then we're going to bring it down. 1. Provide a J, and then we're going to come slightly up where we just came through with 1. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now you'll notice I'm not coming all the way up where I was with 1. I'm only coming up about halfway or even a third, and that's something very important when we look at the rebound, that we cover that, again, 1/3 to half the distance that we cover when we're going down for that original ictus, okay? So again, this is a smooth legato pattern that we're looking at. We want to make sure, again, that it's not a retrace, so you're not going to completely just retrace where it was before. You're going to come up just ever so slightly. And I'll show you a diagram here in just a moment so you can see that, okay? All right, let's go ahead and take a look at that diagram. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, so hold tight just for a moment. And we'll go to that. All right, almost there. Let's do that once again. Thank you, Zoom. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see now, this is our 1 pattern that we just covered. Very straightforward there. Our 2 pattern, you can see again where that 2 is coming through just slightly above where that ictus is on 1. And the ictus is very important because again, that's where we take a look at our clarity overall. So something that's very important there when we're conducting all of these different patterns. Okay? So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to stop the share here just for a moment. Come back to you. Let's do 8 measures of 2/4. 8 measures of 2/4. Okay? Here we go. Our ready position. Nice and solid. Make sure, again, the arms are nice and relaxed. No tension. No tension in the shoulders either. Good posture with the head. Great confidence. 1, 2, 1. Prep. 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 7, 2, 8, 2, and drop. Okay? So that's one of the versions of 2. Now we've got the other one. When we do a fight song, you know, most of our fight songs are going to have a great deal of punch and energy with those fight songs. So when we look at that, I'm going to alleviate some of these things. Part of it, we can almost conduct it like a 1 pattern. And you can look at this as kind of going up and down. And sometimes with the drum majors that I work with, I'll actually tell them, why don't we go ahead and create a little bit more of a slant right there as well, almost a diag. Okay? And I'll work on those palms as well, like we all do, to make sure we don't see those palms. Again, we don't want to necessarily see that each time, so keep those palms as flat as possible. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So when we look at our fight songs, this probably matches up stylistically if it's more marcato, more accented. So that's something to take a look at as well. Another version of 2 that we can look at is kind of a checked pattern. And when we look at that, we prep again, 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. That can be kind of determined or defined as a subdivided pattern, but there's some things when we're conducting a 2 that it may not make sense to do this. It may not make sense to do something legato, so this is another great version, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. It defines that clarity of that ictus a little bit more, but you do have to be careful with that rebound there along the way. Okay? All right, let's take a look. I'm going to share my screen once again. We're going to go to the 3 pattern this time. And our 3 pattern looks like this. So you're going to notice this time that the rebound goes opposite of where 2 is going. And you also notice that that rebound is only going up ever so slightly where the ictus takes place. Okay, we don't want to go any more than that halfway point right there for any time that we come down on 1. If we do, it's going to become very cluttered and there's going to be tremendous lack of clarity when we're going through that. Okay, so look at that. We're going to go over into the horizontal space. And there's, again, very clearly defined where that 2 is going to be and then where 3 is going to be. Okay, I'm going to stop that share. We'll come back to you. Now, one side note. I know we've got some directors out there that may prefer focal conducting, where every ictus is all right there centered. 1, 2, and as we work through that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll notice that that ictus is hitting the same place every single time. What I'm covering, again, because this is coming from more of the formal side of conducting and the Elizabeth Green approach, this is considered, ictus based, we'll just call it that, to where every ictus has a defined space and coordinate, if you will, since we're in the marching band world right now. So in looking at that, that's something that you're going to notice. So know the difference. If your director wants you to do focal conducting, that's something that's a little bit different than what I'm teaching. And again, I'm happy to again cover some of those things with you if you would like to cover some of those elements. But this is ictus based. That's why you're going to see the ictus is in a different place for every pattern that we do. Okay, let's trace out that 3 pattern. So here we are. We're in our ready position once again. We're going to prep on which count? Count before. We're going to assume that everything starts on count 1, so that's going to be on count 3. We prep on count 3. Trace it out with me. Come down on 1 with a slight rebound. And again, it doesn't have to go in like that drawing shows. We want to be careful with that because sometimes that can start to look like a 4-4 pattern. So 1 and 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3. You'll notice that 2 hits along the way. So 1 is there, 2 is again right there like the diagram shows, and then 3 comes up right there. So it's not a matter of 1 and 2. 2 isn't necessarily here. 2 happens along that journey. 1 and 2, 3. 2 stretches there. There's the length of that note. So if I was doing something a little bit more marcato or staccato, I'm not going to fully extend like that. That's going to be a little bit different when we get ready to define that. Okay, let's do 8 measures of 3 together. Here we go. Ready, position. 1, 2, prep. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3. 4, 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 6, 2, 3, 7, 2, 3, 8, 2, 3, and drop. I give you an extra measure there. All right, little extra practice. All right, so now we move to the 4-4, and 4-4 is probably one of the first patterns that we learned, and some of you probably learned it in floor, window, ceiling, or whatever the case may be. In looking at this, we're going to define this a little bit more because oftentimes we cheat 3 when we're conducting 4. So in looking at this, let's bring up that pattern diagram once again so you can see that. Okay, here it is. So you'll notice the 4-4. The rebound goes the opposite direction of 2 once again. It doesn't necessarily have to go up that high. This is something again that you can again bring that up, just about a third of where that 1 is coming down. Take it over to 2, then over to 3, then up on 4. Okay? All right. And I can share this diagram with you through this email that we're going to be sending out to everyone as well, if interested, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and set that up so we can go through the 4-4 time. We hit that ready position once again. We prep on count 4. We bring it down on count 1, in for 2, out for 3, out for 4, okay? So this ready position, this is really important because if we're conducting, let's say forte, we may need to open up the wingspan a little bit more. Why? Because we never want 2 to cross. This is going to provide a great deal of, a lack of clarity. So when we look at that, we want to make sure we've got enough room to take 2 in, and then we go out for 3. What I was saying before, oftentimes when we're conducting in 4-4, we like to stop right here about where the 1 comes down with 3. We need to fully extend that. Equal value for each in terms of that length of note. So if I go here 1 and 2, and I create that much space, I need to go over on that side of 1, the other side of 1 with 3, that same space. Keep it symmetrical, okay? Let's do 8 measures of 4. 8 measures of 4. 1, 2, 3, prep. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 2, 3, 4, and 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, and 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, and drop. Okay? All right. Hopefully that's good so far. Again, we can help you with some things if you have some follow-up questions later on. Okay, we're going to take you quickly through the 2 versions of 5 and the 1 version of 6, primarily because some of you may be conducting this way and some of you may not. So the first version that we're going to do is a 2 plus 3. 2 plus 3. And this is when we're drawing out the quarter note. We're not mixing a 3 pattern and a 2 pattern. We're going to do it all in 1 pattern. Can you do it in 3 and 2 and 2 and 3 patterns? Absolutely. Do what makes most sense and what the music dictates. That's very important. And another layer when you get into score study, even for marching band, looking at those scores, you need to do some score study. Understand what's taking place musically and let that dictate what you're going to do conducting wise, okay? So let's retrace this, or trace this for the first time I should say. We're going to set up that ready position and we're going to do 2 plus 3 first. We're going to do 2 plus 3. So my wingspan in terms of the horizontal plane is not going to be as wide because I'm going to only go in for 1 count in towards the center. So I'm going to prep on count 5. I'm going to bring it down on count 1. I'm going to arc in for 2. I'm going to arc out for 3 beyond where 1 came down. Another arc at 4. And then I'm going to come in on 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, couple key things to pay close attention to. The horizontal plane. Every ictus along there needs to hit that horizontal plane. We don't want to go 1, then 2 down here, 3 up here, 4 over here. All along that same plane. The other part of that is that sagittal plane. When I'm conducting, same thing, 4, 4. We don't want to go 1, in, out, up. We want to stay 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I said, use the analogy. Even if you've got like a marker, you're in front of a whiteboard. You want to make sure that you show that pattern and that stays attached to that whiteboard. Or again, fingers up against the wall, they stay attached to that wall as we're going in for that 4, 4. When we do this with 5, it's really easy to want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, keep that all in the sagittal plane as well. To where again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully you'll see right there I'm keeping it fairly level. If there was a wall or a whiteboard up against me, that's staying in that sagittal plane along the way. Okay? So again, let's review that really quickly. We prep on count 5. We come down on 1, 2, out for 3, out for 4, up for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth, okay? All right, so part of that, you may want to make that a little bit smaller if you don't have a large or wide wingspan, and so keep that all in check. Each of those arcs should match as well. So if I'm going 1 to 2, that arc that I created right there, make sure when we go from 3 to 4, that looks very similar to that 1 and 2. We don't want, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want them all being varying sizes, so look out for that, okay? The other version of 5, 4 is 3 plus 2. Now we need to open this ready position up a little bit more because now we're going to go in for 2. So we prep on count 5, then go 1, 2, 3, out for 4, up for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now see, I messed that one up right there. So part of that, we don't ever want to, again, cross right there. So open that up, keep that nice and solid, and also match where we are 1, 2, 3. Each of those arcs should match from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, okay? 5, 1, 2, 3, out for 4, beyond where 1 came down, up for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, okay? And I'll show you that diagram once again so you can see that that visual is very helpful when we look at that, okay? 6/8 pattern, 6/8. Well, actually not 6/8. We could do this in 6/8. We could do this in regular 6. So we're going to actually beat time for 6 separate counts as opposed to, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which you could do with the 2 pattern. This is going to actually define where this is each ictus, okay? So we prep on count 6, come down on 1, 2, 3, out for 4, 5, up on 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With doing 6, your arcs are probably going to be a little bit smaller because, again, based on the space that you have to use, if you start off really large, you're not going to have a lot of space. You're going to run out of space of wingspan once you get out there. So really look out for that as well. Okay? So we've covered some basic patterns, our 1 pattern, 2 pattern, our 3 pattern, and our variety of 2 patterns, I should say. Remember, you've got the legato 2, you've got the stopped or frozen pattern 2, you've got the checked 2, then you've got 3, you've got 4, you've got the 2 versions of 5, and then you've got the 6 pattern as well. Now, something to think about. The 3 parts of conducting, like I said, are preparatory gesture, the ictus, and the rebound. The rebound helps us define style. So there's 4 different stylistic elements that we're going to go ahead and cover very briefly as well. And some of these things, well, all of them, honestly, are used throughout a lot of music that we do within the marching medium and certainly other mediums as well. So the very first one is legato. We've covered a good deal of that along the way. So to utilize 4/4 legato can be exactly what we've done already. And you just, again, when you come up to the ictus, it's going to be a little bit softer approach, meaning we're not going to be so aggressive with that ictus. Okay? So 1 and 2, 3, 4. You'll notice that the rebound is very healthy right there for all of those. It stretches out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another way to do this is, again, to kind of do a rounded approach, and some people do this. Sometimes, I think marching band wise, this can get a little, again, one of those things that provides a lack of clarity. But again, this definitely defines legato. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you notice, again, we're just kind of rounding around where those ictus would be. Each of those icti. Okay? So that's a way to approach that legato. Legato being smooth and connected, and that's what you want to show from the conducting aspect of things. Okay, let's move to staccato. Our definition, and hopefully yours as well, light and detached. So when we look at this, this requires lot less of the hinges that we've done. When we're dealing with a concert ensemble, it's really easy to do because they're right there in front of you. And so again, we're utilizing primarily the wrist and the fingers. Dit, 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 dit. I feel this is much more difficult when we're in the position of drum major and trying to provide that. So for some of us, if we were truly defining this and analyzing it, it may look like it's going to be more aggressive than staccato, but I think we still need to provide the size. So when we look at this, it's going to be dit, 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 dit. There's no rebound, but you need to try your best to hit that ictus as light as possible. So this is where when we go to the opposite of staccato, marcato, which is heavy and detached, you hit that ictus with a great deal of energy. Hit, 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 hit. You can do some great imperial march with that. Da, 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 and so forth, okay? So then the other part is accented. When we look at accented, maybe not necessarily a style, it certainly is an articulation, as we know. So to define an accent, that articulation, it's going to be emphasized but with full length. So how do we do that? And from the conducting side again, we're going to have a full rebound, but you're going to give it a little more emphasis on each ictus. So in 4/4 pattern, we're going to get hit, 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 and hit, hit, da, 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 da. So you'll notice again, I'm keeping a similar motion as I did with legato when I wasn't doing those S curves around the icti, and I'm just adding a little more emphasis on each ictus right there. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So those are some basic things. Again, legato, smooth and connected. Smooth everything out. Keep it all connected. There's no stop motion with the visual part of conducting that we're doing. When we move to staccato, light and detached. There is no rebound. So when you hit each ictus, it stops. Dit, 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 dit. The volume at what the piece, asks for, that's going to determine how much of this we're utilizing, okay? Then we get into marcato, the opposite of staccato, heavy and detached. So a great deal of energy into each ictus as we go in there. And then accented, Again, that's going to be emphasized, but with full value. So again, hitting that da, 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 da. Okay? So you've got some basic now articulations that you can take a look at as well, and some basic styles that we look at. All right, a couple other elements. Okay, we've got our different types of releases that we do as well. At the end of a piece, we're going to call that a complete release. So if we've got a whole note, da, release, and drop. Okay, that's the best example of a complete release. But it can also be located in the middle of a piece or anywhere throughout a piece. A complete release would be used if you have to give another prep to start the music once again. So more than a rest. Separating again where the ending of a musical phrase ends and before the next one begins. So when we look at this, this could be a caesura or railroad tracks, as some of you may call that. You know, as you look at that, a grand pause and release. And then in order to start the music again, I've got to give that prep to again show where we're going. And the prep, we haven't covered this yet, but that preparatory gesture tells us three things. It tells us where we are stylistically, tells us where we're going to be tempo-wise, and it tells us what the volume is going to be. So you can get a lot. You know, conducting is the nonverbal communication. And for those that have studied conducting, you know that. If you have to explain what you're doing conducting-wise, we're probably not being clear with our physical approach to this. So that's something that's very key as well. So remember that. 3 parts to what that preparatory gesture tells us. The style, which will be staccato, legato, marcato, so forth, those styles that we've covered. The tempo, how fast or slow we're going to take things. And then, you know, the volume. Obviously, the bigger that we conduct, the louder that we want it to be. The smaller that it is, the softer that we want it to be. So some things to take a look at there as well. All right, so complete release. And when we prep that, we can use both hands. And I've got palms up right now. I provide a circular release. And you can either close into the fist, or you can, again, just put a little bit more spin on where you are there at the end when that release takes place. So, da. Okay? So it doesn't always have to be close the fist. And then you just go ahead and freeze right there, or whatever the music will dictate, and then we drop down and away we go. Okay? So that's a complete release. Semi-pause. The semi-pause release is going to be, you know, the best example here, or one most commonly used, especially as a drum major, that if you've got the opportunity to conduct the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, you know, as we look at that, we provide a semi-pause. Da dee da 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 dee da da dee da da da. Release. Da da da. That release serves also as the prep. So I'm not stopping more than a count. That release takes place, and then the prep comes in. That tells the ensemble we're still going. Da, 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 release. Da, 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 and so forth, okay? So semi-pause. And again, you can release a number of different ways. These are some very basic approaches that we look at. But again, right now, the very basic one is, again, that left hand or right hand. Palms will be up. We prep that. We provide that circular release showing that the music's about ready to end, and either close or just give a little more velocity right there as we get ready to hit an ictus again to show where that actual release takes place, okay? Cool. All right, our final one is a continuous hold. I doubt very often do we see this in marching band, but again, just great knowledge to have from the conducting toolbox, if you will, and keeping that as one of the fundamentals. So let's put this in perspective of 4 quarter notes in a measure, and we're going to put a fermata, over count 4. And I'm just going to stretch through that. So it would look like 1, 2, 3, stretch. 1, 2, 3, stretch. 1, 2, 3, stretch, and so forth. You can put that fermata anywhere. There is no release. There's no stop and start again. It just stretches through, okay? So again, just to help you with this, how long do we hold a fermata? Rule of thumb, music's going to dictate, number 1, okay? But rule of thumb is you take whatever value that note is, and you take half that value and add on to that. So if we've got a whole note that equals 4 counts, and we've got a fermata over it, and we're going to stop, we're going to at least hold that fermata now, whole note, for 6 counts. Otherwise, if we hold it for 4, there's no reason for the fermata. So just another nugget to, again, tuck away and keep in your mindset when we're going through some of these things. Okay? So now you've got the 3 different types of releases as well. The complete at the end of a piece, grand pause, caesura, railroad tracks. You've got the semi-pause, where the prep, the release, I should say, serves as the prep for the music to begin again, and then continuous, where you just stretch through. We're not actually providing a release. You're just stretching through to show maybe a little more rubato, and then we move on. Okay? Couple other things. Tempos. Okay? Best thing to do is have an app or have Dr. Beat that has a metronome feature. Obviously, Dr. Beat does, but if you've got an app on your phone that has tempos, refer to that, study that, know where those tempo changes are going to take place along with time signature changes. That comes into play in terms of your score study. Now, what if for some reason Dr. Beat fails, batteries go out, your phone dies? Here are a couple different things you can take a look at to have a general idea of some tempos, okay? So most of us probably know this already. Quarter note equals 60. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, dot, dot, okay? The second serves as that quarter equals 60, okay? Now, we got to math a little bit. Now let's double that. Dot, 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 dot. There's our 120. Once we've doubled that, 60. Some of you will utilize a march and say that's how I can figure it out, especially Stars and Stripes. Well, you know, since we've got the Sousa archives at the University of Illinois, one of the things you find out that Sousa has played his marches a variety of different tempos. So in each performance, he may vary it a little bit. So for us, we don't ever use that example, da 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 da, because Sousa may have played it faster than that in many of the times that he had his Sousa band play that. So just take it mathematically, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, dot 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 dot. Okay? Now, those 2 things you probably know already. Here's a cool thing you can take a look at. 1 1,000, 2 1,000. Now think of the triplet at this tempo. And for me, growing up, I was taught to say the triplet, 1 theta, 2 theta, 3 theta, 4 theta, dot, 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 dot. So if you take 60 times 3, that's 180. Guess what? You got a 180 tempo right there based off the triplet from 60. 1 theta, 2 theta, dot, 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 dot. Split that in half, divide by 2. Now you have quarter equals 90. So now you have quarter equals 60, 90, 120, and also 180. So most tempos that we look at in marching band are going to be close to that. So if there's, 10 ticks down, you can slow it down or speed it up a little bit based on what the music is dictating. But again, use that metronome, use Dr. Beat, make sure that, again, you've got all those tempos down, because you as drum major, that's your job. Not just tempos, not just patterns, but again, communicating what the music needs and what the ensemble needs. So very important there. So really work to strive to have that all in place. Okay? All right, so I'm going to come back to you here and give you a little wrap up as we go on to some things. Again, it was a great time this past Thursday, and I hope that this video, for those of you that weren't able to attend, allows you to see what we covered. There's a lot of things when we look at conducting that's very important, and especially in the position of drum major. Excuse me. But conducting's not all of it, and this is something I shared Thursday. I love Dr. Tim's philosophy, and if you don't know Dr. Tim Lotzenheiser, do a search for him on YouTube. He talks a lot about leadership, and he has been doing leadership for a long time, in the musical profession for a long time as well. And I'm such a big subscriber to his philosophy of servitude leadership versus systemic leadership. This gets into I, me versus we, us. And I teach this a lot with the drum majors that we teach throughout the country. And, oftentimes, one of the first things I share with my drum majors, I think too many people think that this drum major is this glorified position, that you get to be on the podium, your name gets called and announced. And yes, there's a lot of great fanfare that goes along with the position. But philosophically, you need to make sure that you, in a way, you're the bottom of the totem pole. The people that are most important are the people in your band. How are you taking care of them? What are you doing to serve them? What are you doing to make sure, again, that you're creating and developing relationships? I want you to, again, think back and put yourself in, the shoes of when you were entering your band program for the first time. Were you welcome? Was it a welcoming environment? And if not, why not? And, if your program right now doesn't have a very welcoming environment, how can you be an agent of change and truly make sure that those students coming in are going to feel welcome? You as drum major, this is a big part of your job, making sure that everyone feels like they're part of the team. We live now more in a world, and you understand it more than any other generation before you, that we need to be inclusive. We need to be welcoming. Everyone needs to feel like they're part of the team. And that is something in music that we are able to do. I love athletics, I love sports, but there's a lot of things that there are typically people that are sitting on the sideline or sitting on the bench waiting for their turn to be put in. We've got people in music that are constantly part of our process. So everyone should feel like they're a valued member of the team. So really look at that. That is something that you as drum major, and if you're not going to be a drum major, you still can be an agent of change. Do the right thing, everyone. Make everyone feel welcome. Help the weakest link to become stronger. And I know you've heard that. It's so cliche, but it is so true. You're only as strong as your weakest link. It is such an important part of our philosophy in the band world. And that's something that, again, your ensemble is going to be only that strong if you get them along and they feel like they're part of something. What we do in music is so important. And obviously, by what we're doing now with this virtual conducting clinic, it just shows us even more that we cannot be replaced by technology. This is something, again, that music elevates the human spirit. And that's something to constantly remember as we go into things. I want to thank Ultimate Drill Book for, again, throwing some shout outs for us along the way last week, and certainly Smith Walbridge Clinics for hosting this and doing so much work to get this information up and shared with you. We've got an amazing team. There's a lot of great camps out there. This is the oldest marching band camp in the country. It's been going on since 1949, and we would love to see you. This is not a commercial for Smith Walbridge by any means, but we would love to see you face to face. Our camps take place in July. They take place on the campus of Eastern Illinois University in Charleston, Illinois, and we certainly would love to see you there. So anything we can do to help you, please let us know. We've got a great motto of thumbs up, and so we are going to throw a big thumbs up to you all for joining us. And we hope more than anything that you continue to stay safe, you stay well, stay strong, stay healthy, and continue to make great things happen for your band program. It's been a great pleasure spending some time with you. If there's anything else we can do, go to our social channels. We're on Instagram, SW Clinics. Same thing, Twitter, SW Clinics, and Facebook, Smith Walbridge Clinics. So any other questions or follow-up that you want to have, we are constantly following those social media channels. So feel free to send us a question, and we'll be sure to answer that as fast as we can. But take care, stay well, and all the best to you all. Thumbs up. Barry Hauser out.